home run is ended in the last match of 2024 as Cardiff City collect.
Well, there it was. I think you could probably hear some of that, fellow Watford supporters. The long unbeaten streak at Vicarage Road has come to an end under Clevs. The final score from the Vic today was Watford 1, Cardiff City 2. And really, Cardiff City, you can have no complaints here. Cardiff City deserved to win the game. There's no question about it. This was a very poorly played game by Watford on all fronts. Some people might talk about tactics. Some people might complain about the lineup. People might say that Barr being out was the reason, but Barr was not the reason why they lost this game. Barr being out of the lineup was not the reason. They've played like this when Barr has been in the game. So listen, this has got nothing to do with Barr's absence. Of course, it doesn't hurt. It doesn't help, I should say, to have Barr out of the game. It doesn't help Watford, obviously, but Watford didn't help themselves. That's the bottom line today. Fellow Watford supporters, thank you very much for joining on X and on YouTube. If you want to have your say on X, please hit the request button and have your say, or leave a comment and they'll be read out here. And same thing on YouTube, fellow Watford supporters on YouTube. Thank you very much for chiming in. I'll be reading out your comments as well. Thank you very much for those in advance. Watford today just didn't deserve to win. They didn't play well. They didn't deserve a point out of the game. They deserved to lose the game. It's a harsh result, but I mean, it's a harsh reality, I should say, that Watford keep doing the same thing and they expect different results. You can't keep playing tentative football in front of your home fans in the first half and expect somehow that that's going to change for you. You cannot keep expecting to rescue games from when you're behind. The law of averages in this world says that one of these days, you're going to come into a situation like that and the well is going to run dry and you're not going to be able to come from a goal back. Watford were terrible today. They couldn't even hold the draw as it was in the first half before 4 minutes after that, Cardiff scored again. This team today were awful. Cardiff came in. They did an excellent job. Cardiff controlled the game. I don't care that they had 26% of the possession. Who cares? They won with 26% of the possession. It doesn't matter how much possession you have. It's how your tactics match up and what you do with the football when you are on the ball and how you defend. And Cardiff did all of those things correctly today. And not only did they do them correctly, they did them far better than we did. There's no action. There's no argument there. Cardiff City was so much better in every phase of the game than we were today. Who cares if they're second from bottom? Doesn't matter, because as I've said before, you're not playing a position on the table when you're playing a team. You are not playing a position in the table. You are playing a team. And in this case, Watford were playing a desperate Cardiff side. But Watford never showed any desperation in this game. No desperation, no heart, no stomach. The defense was awful today. Awful defending, especially that second goal. Terrible defending. Ryan Porteous was awful. The two Ryans had an absolute mare today. Ryan Andrews and Ryan Porteous were MIA. Where the hell were they in this game? Ryan Andrews was non-existent in his first start in a while, and you can see why he doesn't start these games anymore. He is a non-starter right now for Watford. Has not done a thing for Watford that I can think of in the last few weeks, whether he's on the pitch starting or on the pitch coming on off the bench. He has not done a thing. And Ryan Porteous reverted to some of the worst form that we had seen after he had a nice run. Today, he was all over the place. He was responsible for that first goal. I don't know where his head was. I don't know if he's still been eating his Christmas turkey or not. I don't know if he's had too much eggnog. Whatever it is, I can tell you, fellow Watford supporter, that Ryan Porteous was off the pitch and off the boil. And look, that's why Clevs took him off. He was never in this game whatsoever. And also, one of the things that's really going to be a big talking point amongst Watford fans today is Daniel Jefferson. Oh, dear, oh, dear. If ever there was a symbolization of how poor Watford were today, you can just look no further than Mr. Daniel Jefferson, who came in here, and I actually had some high hopes for him. What did I know? Coming in and bigging him up, thinking he was going to be something for Watford. Unfortunately, he has been not only something, he has been a whole lot of nothing for us. And it's a shame. I do have a little sympathy for him, but I'm sorry, you know, when you can't put in a ball that's half a yard off the line, you can't nod that ball home. That's two straight now, 2 consecutive games in the Vic in four days, and he's had a sitter that's easier to miss than to score on, and he's somehow done the harder thing. Easier to score than to miss on. And he's somehow done the harder thing, which is to miss from there, from a half yard out. I mean, that's got to be in the back of the net, Daniel. The same thing on Thursday against Portsmouth on Boxing Day. Same thing. Same area of the pitch. Can't put them in the back of the net. You know, look, we got lucky in the game against Portsmouth. I said this before. We were very fortunate, in my view, to win the game, and character took us over the line in that game. But there was an absence of character today in this performance. We were not on the bubble. We were on planet Mars. Caden, you are first on You ORNS post-match on X. I'll read out your comments as well on YouTube. So, Caden, I'm going to come to you in 10 seconds. But Matt on YouTube says, what the heck was Porteous doing with some of his passes today? If he's going to play like that, he needs to be on the bench for the next game. I'm with you, Matt. Ryan Porteous was atrocious today. Caden, it's your turn. You are on X on You ORNS post-match. Hello, Caden.
Afternoon, how you doing?
Not too bad, but this was an abysmal display, Caden.
Well, I'll summarise the performance in one word. Pathetic. I mean, what the hell was that? We have literally worked this whole year fantastically at home, and at the last hurdle, we screw it up in true Watford fashion. I mean, that was utterly unacceptably poor. The players need to look at themselves. Sissoko, poor. Kayembe, poor. Andrews, poor. Larousse, poor. I can name all of them. I want to just especially mention the worst Watford striker I've seen in my lifetime, Daniel Jebison. How bad was he today? Daniel Jebison is the worst striker I have seen play for Watford in my lifetime. The worst. How are you not scoring that? Have Rajovic on the pitch, and you're clever with Rajovic. You keep Rajovic. Rajovic is on that pitch. Rajovic puts that away, and Rajovic makes us draw the game. But no, we have Daniel Jebison, who is utterly poor. Thank God the transfer window's open in a few days, so we can get him out of the club. Get him gone and rip the contract. Cleverly substitutions today. Oh my God. What the hell went on with his substitutions today? Bringing Fata and Loser is absolutely criminal. Criminal, considering they are the most creative players on the pitch, bar Chakfadadze.
I agree with you, Caden. I thought terrible decision.
My man on the match today was Imran Loser. I thought Imran Loser was excellent. I thought Serrata did well when he came on. But apart from that, that's utterly abysmal. I mean, that is no way acceptable. So I guess we have to go again on New Year's Day against QPR away, which we are going to lose about 10-0.
Caden, thank you very much for your comments. You sum up a lot of the things I was feeling about this team today. They were utterly disgraceful, and they really should be made to keep training throughout the new year. I'm sure they will. Caden, thank you very much for your comments. Caden there with his comments about how terrible this team was today. They did not do themselves any justice whatsoever. Cardiff deserved to win the game. I have no complaint about Cardiff's football. Cardiff played very well. I don't think you can sit here as a Watford fan and say that they didn't deserve to win. They totally did. Cardiff played better tempo football. They had a good defending setup. They were very good down the channels. They exploited their middle. I did think that Loser was very good, but generally we were ripped apart when it came to the defense. It was all over the place today. Andrews, horrible. Porteous, awful. Sissoko was up and down in the game. He couldn't even put a pass together, Sissoko, late on. How can you not put you're a veteran footballer, Sissoko. How do you not make a simple pass? I mean, he couldn't even get that pass over to the next man. And the man is only about 3 yards away from him. It was really that poor today from Sissoko in a lot of areas of the pitch. It's a shame because I thought that he had a good start to the season, but he has disappeared off the radar for Watford. And again, It's troubling, and Caden made this point earlier. We go on to QPR now, and QPR are much better than they were even when they played us just last month. And the problem now is we can't get a win away from home. So, who knows? I'm going to say that we'll pull a rabbit out of the hat somehow and get back on form and nick a game at QPR, because I'm going to be that optimistic or that deluded, depending on how you see it, after 10 minutes after we get waxed at home, because 2-1 was not the story here. Cardiff should have had 4 goals in this game. We were so bad. The defense is awful right now. Only Pollock shows you the leadership in that defense, and only Pollock did anything right, it seemed, in that defense. Everybody else was all over the map. I think Larousse had ups and downs. Yes, he had some tough moments, but he also, I think, defended as well as he could, given the circumstances in what really was a poor game for the defense. The defense is actually getting worse and worse now, which is even more troubling. That's 2 more goals conceded. We conceded 2 against Burnley, 1 against Portsmouth, and then the 2 today. That's 5 in the last 3 games. So now our defending is beginning to go back to the way it was when we started to leak goals all over the place, leaking goals at our horrible neighbors, leaking goals at Carrow Road. We leaked 4 there, leaking goals at Preston. You get the idea. Our defending continues now to revert to where it was earlier in the season, and now we're losing at home. There's no shame, though, in 17 unbeaten. That's the silver lining I take out of it. 17 games unbeaten. That's a hell of a run. I have said over and over that the key for Watford is to start winning these away games, especially away games to teams above us and around us, and we've not yet done that. Queen's Park Rangers are not above us in the table, but certainly we need to start to get things right away, and what better way to do that than at QPR? A place where we've been up and down. We've not had some success there recently. Amazingly enough, in the table, if you look at the results today, we saw really a couple of upsets. The game that we obviously lost, and then the game at Ewood Park, where Blackburn Rovers lost as well. I mean, that's a silver lining, I guess, you can take out of that. Although Blackburn are above us at start of play, they will stay 5th. But they lost at home to Hull. So look, bottom clubs, teams at the bottom today got the job done. That tells you something. I think both of them are in the bottom 3. And so they've both managed away wins, and Plymouth lost to Oxford. So, that's another upset. Stoke beat Sunderland. So there are a lot of games like this today where you've had teams at the top end of the table losing. You have the game Sheffield United 1, West Brom 1, Blackburn 0, Hull 1. And of course you had, as I've said, Stoke 1, Sunderland 0. And of course, we lost. So, in a way, a lot of these teams stuttered today, but that only underlines the problems that we have. And of course, Richard Lees on YouTube says Swansea 2 and that a lot up the road 1, which is at least another silver lining, right? Richard Lees, Richard on YouTube. I guess we can at least have some fun with that. By the way, Richard also says on YouTube, afternoon, Omar, such a disappointing game. Finally beaten at home. Never got going. Never got into any kind of rhythm. Must do better. We are better than this. That's what Richard says on YouTube. Thank you, Richard, for your comments. I agree with you wholeheartedly. Got to be better than this. Got to be better than this in all phases of our game. We only had 10 minutes today where we were better than this. And that was the 10 minutes that led up to Georgie's goal. From the 26th minute on to around the 38th minute, so we had 12 minutes where we were actually halfway decent. We put some sustained pressure on Cardiff. We kept moving around their goal. We got busy around their area and their 18, and we fashioned one chance outside of the one that went to Georgie, who took it by himself. It was basically really across from Vata, which was missed by, I think, Kayembe, who was trying to head it. And then it was Georgie that then drove the ball in. I guess technically that is an assist from Vata, having an involvement, he or Bar, in each of these last 5 games now with the goal involvement. But the bottom line is that outside of that 10 minutes that led to the goal in the 38th minute of play, we did nothing else the whole game. How can you do that? 98 minutes were played, and in only 10 of those did Watford do anything of note. Anything. And believe me, that's how bad it was today. We were awful. Caden put it absolutely right. We just did not have any imagination. We played like a team that didn't seem to have the urgency. We didn't seem to have knowledge of what the opportunity was for us in this game. We didn't seem to really have the kind of initiative We lacked that. We were very, very reluctant to go forward. We looked hesitant. We have looked very passive. We've not put any of these opportunities to the sword. We've not fashioned enough opportunities today. And when you have Daniel Jefferson missing a point blank range opportunity like that, my goodness me, it's really sad. It's painful. It's angering. It's frustrating. It's all of those things for me, because I think Daniel Jefferson certainly is better than this, but he hasn't shown it. He hasn't shown it. So I guess he's not better than this. Daniel Jefferson has really kind of highlighted he's gonna be a focal point. It's not going to only be him. I've had some fans on X telling me that Tom Cleverley is to blame for this game. Someone on X told me that Tom Cleverley's lineup was an absolute clown show, and that Cleverley is a clown, effing clown. There, he was cursing up a streak, swearing up a streak when he was talking to me. This fan was very unhappy with what Cleverley was doing. Now, listen, I will agree on. I'll say one thing: Cleverley did not get the subs correct. I'm sorry, you and Caden mentioned this earlier on X. I'm sorry, you cannot take off Loser and you cannot take off Vatter.Vatter's the one that got you the assist. The guy's what, 18, 19 years old? You've got to keep him on the pitch. I don't care that there's a game on New Year's Day. He's a young lad. He can deal with that. Jeez, come on now. That's a disgrace. I mean, that was a problem for me, seeing him take off the two most, and then Caden pointed this out, the two most influential players that we had today. Georgie, of course, was the other one who fashioned the chance and scored off of it. But it's really disappointing the way we approached this game with everything that was at stake. And we missed a golden opportunity to leapfrog Blackburn Rovers. But in truth, we were never in a position to get anything out of this game. Cardiff came in, they did their job. Omar Moore, the former Watford coach, got a scouting pick, and he obviously scouted his ex-team very well. He knows them well. He knows Clevs very well. He used to manage Clevs basically when Clevs was in the under-18s. He used to be one of the coaches on there. But this was a very disappointing game. Watford did not play well in either of these two games. And the difference between the game, obviously the scoreline is the difference. The difference between the game on Thursday on Boxing Day and this game is that character lacked today. We had no character out there. We had no showing out there. We had no inclination to want to win the game. We thought that we could turn it on and off. And I think that we get very naive at times as a team. When we are at home, we think that everything is gravy. We've got a 17-game unbeaten streak. We'll find a way to turn it on. And you can't keep doing that in these games. Oh, we did it on Boxing Day. Oh, we'll turn it around again. This lot of nothing. Cardiff are bottom two. You can't go on the pitch. And I don't know what's in these guys' minds. I can't read their minds. I'm not Nostradamus. But you can't go on the pitch thinking that you can just turn these things around against these bottom clubs. We have had so many problems against teams in the bottom three, bottom six this season. A million problems. Can't beat Cardiff. Can't beat Hull City. Can't beat Plymouth. Can't beat Preston, who were in the bottom three when we played them back in October and lost 3-0. You can't beat these teams. Can't beat QPR, who are much, much better than I told you this millions of times. When we played them before we played QPR in November, QPR were much better than where they showed on the table, which is why you cannot start thinking about these teams. Well, they're in the bottom two. We should get an easy win. No, it don't work like that, because you know what? Teams in the bottom two get desperate, and they play desperate, especially in late December, especially at the end of a calendar year. Teams in the bottom two get real desperate. You know why? We saw that today, right? Teams in the bottom three get real desperate at this time of year, right? Because Hull City went up to Ewood Park today, and they're in the bottom three. Last time I checked, before this game started, that they played today, and they won 1-0 at Ewood Park. It's very difficult for any team to come out of Ewood Park for 3 points. But these bottom clubs get desperate at this time of year, and Watford have got to understand that. And by the way, one other thing, this notion, and I'll repeat this for those of you who may have come in late here, and I'll read out your comments on X and YouTube in a moment. Thank you for bringing the comments in. This notion that Bar being absent is the reason why we lost this game is absolute nonsense. I will say this again. The notion that Bar being out of the lineup is the reason why Watford lost is absolutely nonsensical. This has nothing to do with Bar being absent. When Bar has been in these starting lineups, they've played like this and worse. So this has nothing to do with one player being out the lineup. Is it true that we could have used Bar today? Absolutely true. Absolutely true. No question about it. But this notion that any Watford fan telling you that Bar being out is the reason that we lost the game is just not paying attention. You're just not paying attention to the whole season. We have played like this. We've played close to this in many of the games at the Vic, and we've been fortunate in some of the games to get victories. We were trailing against Coventry and got a draw. We were trailing against Derby and won. We were trailing, I think, against Middlesbrough and we got the win. We were against Sunderland, rather. I forget who it was, but we trailed in a number. We trailed against Portsmouth and won. There have been a number of games this season where we've played like this or worse and got wins or draws. So let's not get crazy here talking about Bar being out is the reason why. Bar being out has got nothing to do with poor substitutions. Bar being out has got nothing to do with poor passes from senior players like Sissoko. Bar being out has got absolutely nothing to do with poor defending, Ryan Porteous. And Bar being out has got absolutely nothing to do with Ryan Andrews, who can't take a throw in, and Larousse, who can't do a freaking throw right, and Bloomin can't get a pass in, Ryan Andrews. Can you pass the ball, Ryan? Can you pass the ball? Ryan Andrews, where are you, man? Where are you? Ryan Porteous, the two Ryans. Where are you, Ryan Porteous, today? Are you on planet Mars? Are you back at your old club where you used to be before you come out here? I mean, Ryan Porteous was terrible today. I'm going to keep saying that because he was, and cleverly realized that too because he subbed him off. But you do not sub off Imran Loser, who many Watford fans generally gave man of the match to 3 or 4 days ago, and who obviously is enjoying a new lease on life with Watford, and who is one of the quiet leaders and one of the more senior players on the team. You don't sub him off. He was very good in your midfield today. He gave a little bit of stability. He gave you some purpose out there on the pitch. He made the possession stick during that 10, 11, 12 minutes in that first half where that's the only time we had anything going that led to George's goal. It was Loser was the focal point of a lot of that. It's incredible. I mean, I think that Clev's missed it with the subs. There's no question about it. And you don't take off Vatter. Vatter was influential, as he always is now. You got to keep starting the young man. And I think one thing you can say about this defeat is the fact that, look, the squad is thin. It just highlights how thin our squad is. It highlights what we need to do in January. I think Caden alluded to this earlier when he was on with us here on X. We have a very thin squad still. Ogbonna was able to be on the bench, but he wasn't brought into the game. I thought Sierralta was very good. I know Caden alluded to that earlier. Sierralta, I thought, was good. I thought it was good to see him on the pitch, and I really liked what he did. But I did not like Ryan Porteous at all today. It's a shame because I thought that he had a few games where he'd done really well for us, but not one of them today. And the whole team today was just not there. I mean, I think if you really want to look at a couple of people who were good, definitely Loser was one of them. Georgie was one of them, and the Vatter was one of them. You know, that's pretty much it. I think Larousse has some good moments in the game, but then he makes a foul throw. Then his second throw almost leads to a third Cardiff goal when he put the throw in from the side of the pitch where the Elton John stand is, and the ball went straight. I don't know what happened. Nobody headed it, nobody did, and the ball went straight across to a Cardiff player way on the other side of the pitch. And if it wasn't for Daniel Backman making the excellent save he made, it would have been 3-1. I mean, the Backman was really the only other bright spot, and he didn't have much to do. It was very, very bad. And please don't get excited about the stats, and I'll read out your comments in a moment, but I need to have a go at this. I need to be a dog on a bone here with this one, because the stats do not get impressed by the fact that Watford had 72% possession. I'm sorry, that doesn't mean a damn thing. Cardiff had 27% of the possession, right? 27.7, and they won the game and won the game going away. The fact that it was 2-1 is kind of like the Burnley game. This game reminds me of the Burnley game. We just did not do enough in the game. And that's 2 games in the last 3 now where we simply have not done enough. We've got a game against QPR, and all of a sudden now the whole complexion of all this stuff shifts, because now you've got to go New Year's Day to West London, not far. It's a local trip. It's a local game, right? You've got to play a QPR side that's pretty difficult to play against, where you have mixed fortunes, and then you've got to play Sheffield United at the Vic, the game after. Now all of a sudden the stakes get raised. 9 shots for us, 9 for Cardiff. 1 shot on target. That's the Georgie goal. 3 on target for Cardiff. 1 save for us to make. That was the Daniel Batman save I just mentioned. The other goalkeeper, we didn't lay a glove on him. He had no saves to make. None. That's criminal. Bottom 2, top 2, any 2. You can't allow that. You didn't put a glove on that goalkeeper. Not a glove on him. No saves to make. I'm reading from the stat sheet right now. I'm sorry, that's a disgrace. You can't allow for that. You got to be better than that at home. You got to be better than that as a footballing team. Where I don't care if you're playing on Mars. You can't go and never trouble that goalkeeper. Had no saves to make. The goalkeeper, Alnwick. None. I'm going to read out your comments on X. Here they are. Loser subbed as 1. I'm sorry. Loser subbed as was 1 foul away from being sent off. That was from Gary. Gary, thank you for the comment. And Gary, I do understand that. And Gary's not currently in the chat at the minute. But I understand that. But I still think that you've got to ride with your veteran player. I mean, Loser's temperament, although he's had some bubbles off, he's bubbled up a bit in previous seasons at times. Loser's temperament is better than Bar's. And Loser's a veteran player. You got to keep him on the pitch. And I understand what Gary said. I completely understand what he said there, which is why Cleverly sent him off. But I think Loser should have stayed on the pitch. Loser is a player who, at least in this game and in the previous game, has really come to life. In fact, several games he's been a cut above and has really put some teeth back in that midfield. He's brought some technical ability and some creativity back into that midfield, which we've sorely missed. We've sorely missed it. We've lacked it. So I understand the point that Gary makes, and thank you, Gary, for that comment on X. I'll read out your comments on YouTube next. But what I really have a problem with is taking off a player who has been one of your more influential players, given what we've seen in this game. I think that the manager got the temperature of this game wrong in terms of the substitutions. That's the only thing I'll say about Clevs. I've got no problem with the lineup. He dealt with the hand he had. You've got to be dealing with the hand that you're dealt. So I can't complain about anything else. I mean, again, as I told you earlier, there was one Watford fan on social media who was really upset with Clevs. He complained about the lineup. He complained about everything. And that was before the game was over, by the way. It was way before the game was over. Although you could say this game was over at halftime. The game was over at halftime. It was 2-1, and that was the way the game ended. Now, I'll read out your comments on YouTube as well. Now, Matt says, if I pick a man of the match, which I wouldn't after that performance, I would pick Chakvetadze for his goal. Plus, for him to keep his composure after the push that was in front of him was great. Yeah, Matt, that was very much the case. I thought that he was very composed today. Chakvetadze was your best player on the pitch for us today. No question about that. I wouldn't say that was really, anything profound to say, but he has been very good for us throughout the entire season. And look, no one will be surprised watching or listening to this if Georgie is gone by the end of the season, either in the January window or gone after the season's over. It's going to be very difficult to keep Georgie here. You're going to have Premier League teams sniffing around if they haven't already. You're going to have teams farther afield than the Premier League sniffing around at him as well. And listen, if you have a chance, if you're Georgie Chakvetadze and you have an opportunity to play in the Premier League, you're going to take it. I don't care who you are. You're going to take it. If you're Georgie Chakvetadze and you have an opportunity to play in the Liga against the likes of a Real Madrid or in the likes of a Real Madrid or, whoever, you're going to take them opportunities. If you have the likes to play in even somewhere like Saudi Arabia, where obviously there's a lot of issues off the field around Saudi Arabia that I could certainly talk about. All I'm saying is you have a lot of players going over to Saudi Arabia, not because they're such a beacon of light, but because the money is nice and bright. And look, Wesley Hook went there, and he's getting a big payday. Cristiano Ronaldo, no relation to Wesley Hood in terms of his playing endeavor and skill, and obviously different positions on the pitch. He did the same thing. Jordan Henderson went there as well. Not a great spell for him, but he went there. Lots of players are going there. But look, the bottom line is it's about the money, and we're not silly about that. We're not naive about that. And Georgie could be going someplace as well, whether it's Saudi, whether it's Premier League, whether it's wherever. But I don't think he's going to be in a Watford shirt after this season is over. You can sign a man to 4-year contracts, 6-year contracts, all you want. As I've said a million times, contracts are made to be broken. It was a Decore. I still have the screenshot of Decore holding up a shirt at the Vic that said Decore 2023. Trouble is that Decore was out of here by 2020 and 21. So the bottom line is that, look, this is what happens in these games. And this is what happens in the business of football. Football is a business, and we obviously know that. 1 or 2 other comments I will read out. Richard from YouTube. Thank you, Richard, for your comment. At least we have Barr back next game for QPR. Shame. Missed him today for a silly yellow card. Yep, they did miss Barr today. But as I will reiterate, and thank you, Richard, again for the comment. As I will reiterate, Barr being absent is not, and I know you didn't say this, Richard, but Barr being absent in this game, I'm just saying this more generally now, is not the reason Watford lost. That's not the reason Watford lost. I've said this a million times. Barr has been in these lineups when Watford have played like this, home or away. And the bottom line today is that Watford just did not play their brand of football whatsoever. There was no identity on the pitch. They were going through the motions. They were too hesitant, too tentative. They didn't attack that Cardiff goal sufficiently in this game to deserve any points whatsoever. They only had that 10-minute stretch, 12-minute stretch, really, from the 26th minute to the 38th that resulted in the Georgie goal, where they attacked anything. The rest of it, the other 80-plus minutes, they were attacking a Christmas dinner that they devoured from 3 or 4 days ago. That's how poor Watford were. Watford was still digesting their Christmas dinner when they played this game. It is that simple. Watford were nowhere to be seen. They were still digesting their Christmas dinner from 4 days ago. And I think they absolutely showed that today. These games at home toward the end of a campaign, end of a year, have always been a problem for Watford. Last season, same thing against Stoke City, the last game of that year, 2023. They were trailing for a long time, 1-0 to Stoke, and then they got a goal. I think Wesley Hood scored the equalizer there to make it 1-1. Remember the game before that from last year when they played on Boxing Day of 2023 against Bristol City, they got spanked. Georgie scored in that game and they lost. So Georgie scored in this game and they lost. No, that's just good. Listen, I know the fact that Georgie scored is not the reason they lost. It's just the way that thing shakes out at the Vic. So that unbeaten record now has gone. It's ended. And look, it was a good one. I've got to give Clev some credit for the long unbeaten run since March of this calendar year. I mean, that is a great accomplishment. It will get lost because Watford played so badly. So a lot of the Watford fan base, I expect, will be talking a lot more about how poor Watford were than how impressive that 10-month unbeaten run was. And that's just the way it goes. You know, that's just the way it goes. If you played a lot better and still lost, we might not be so harsh on you. But it's not even a question of being harsh. If you play as poorly as this, you can expect that we as Watford supporters are going, at least many of us, are going to be less than complimentary about your play. If you were less than complimentary about the way you went about this game, you would have to think that the Watford fan base are going to be less than complimentary about how you played the game and how you went about it. I mean, when you've got players who can't put the ball in from a yard out, it's really bad. I mean, that's really, really bad. And in some ways, we've been exposed in these last 2 or 3 games. I mean, very thin up front. Very thin up front. Oh, my God. We are so thin up front. It is very, very bad. You know, and as Caden talked about Rajovic, and Rajovic has been someone I've had some mixed views on. But yeah, I think Rajovic would have scored. I think Caden's correct on that. Rajovic would have put the ball in the back of the net. And he's done that before for us when we were trailing in games. I remember the game against Millwall last season at the Vic. We were down 2-1 there. And Rajovic got a great ball in from guess who? Loser. who was not on the pitch at the end here. And off that free kick that Loser put forward, Rajovic had a header in to the back of the net down the rookery end, right in the same position that Daniel Jefferson. In fact, Rajovic is further out, and he scored. And it's the same area of the pitch that Jefferson, who was closer to the ball, to the goal, could not score from. I think he's got to feel really bad. I'll close with this on X because I've got to get to Instagram in a moment. But he has got, Daniel Jefferson has got to, I'm sure he does. He must feel awful that he's missed that sitter today, and he missed the one against Portsmouth. Now, people aren't talking about the one against Portsmouth because what happened? We've got the 3 points, so nobody really cares that much. But today, when you don't play well, when you end your 17-game unbeaten streak at the Vic, and when you miss a real sitter, that's a real sitter. I mean, it's harder to miss that than it is to put it in the back of the net. And Jefferson did the harder thing. It's really bad. He has got a world of problems with confidence now, and it happens like this for strikers. But the thing is that the reason why many of the Watford fan base are going to be on his backside, especially on gosh, I shudder to look. I really do shudder to look at some of the social media stuff because I know it's not going to be friendly. It's not going to be friendly to Jefferson at all. Now, if he had some goodwill, if he had scored, say, a 3 or 4 goals in his first few games, perhaps something like this would not be so glaring. But though I know this Watford fan base, some of which is not going to be very friendly to him. And you can understand that. I really hope that there's no, listen, he's going to get some stick. I mean, let's hope it doesn't get personal because I really don't want it to get personal to him. We've seen Daniel Batman get a lot of this kind of nonsense as well. But Daniel Jefferson, I mean, you have absolute right to give him some stick. I'm just hoping that there's not anything even more sinister or sinister beyond the stick, because I know that any player can expect to get a lot of stick for missing chance after chance after chance. You can't blame the fan base for giving someone stick when they miss point blank sitters. You can't blame the fan base for wanting you out the club when you've not done anything. You've not scored. You've missed sitters all the time. Bio missed a number of sitters, but you know what? Bio plays his socks off for the team and he scores. Now he scores. So Bio has picked up a lot more goodwill, even though there are some Watford fans, still many Watford fans that don't care for him. Bio at least has scored your 9 goals this season, and he works hard for the team. And so, and by the way, it was his through ball to Sissoko in the Portsmouth match that set up the goal for Rocco Vata. So, you know, Bio has a lot more goodwill, even if there's some Watford fans that aren't a big fan of his. The man has scored you a lot of goals. He scored you 9. He leads the team in scoring, and he also works really hard. So Bio, you know, while he may have missed sitters here and there this season, and previous to that, he's got a lot more goodwill in the bank now, with at least with a contingent of Watford fans, not every Watford fan, of course, but with a sizable contingent, because they see he works very hard, and the man scores goals, and he had 4 in 1 game, and he's still in good form despite not scoring today. He did all the little things today, did Bio. Obviously didn't have the influence in the game that he has had in some of these games, but he did do what he could do given the circumstances. But look, most of these players today were off of this pace. They were nowhere near it, no right to any points. I don't think you can complain that Cardiff won, but you can complain about how dire Watford were as a team, collectively awful. And when that goal came in 56 seconds in, that was really a sign of things to come. I think those 56 seconds summed up everything about the team in this game, and the Jefferson miss summed up everything. Sissoko had the ball that bounced off of him. He didn't know what happened. The goalkeeper, and also the other thing you can sum up that sums everything up here, is that when an away goalkeeper has no saves to make, wow, that's a real indictment on you, whether the team's in the bottom 2 or not. If an away goalkeeper comes to Vicarage Road and doesn't have a single save to make the entire game, that does not look good for you as the home side with the kinds of players you got. And when a defense concedes in 56 seconds, doesn't look good for you. Ryan Porteous, wow. I think he needs to be benched. He just was poor. But look, I'm sure he'll get another chance, but maybe he'll come off the bench against Queen's Park Rangers. I think he should actually. And let's get Sierralta start these games, shall we? Sierralta and Porteous together and make that a back four. Have the two of them in the middle, right? Sierralta and Pollock together. I'm sorry if I misspoke before. Sierralta and Pollock together in the middle, and then we'll see what we can do left and right. Jeremy Ngaka should probably get back in there on the right-hand side as well. And on the left-hand side, you can either put the Rusi or Festi. I believe Festi can play left or right. But the bottom line is you've got to have Pollock in the middle, and you've got to have Sierralta in the middle. And then you've got to have that back four. I think you do. But we'll see how Clevs plays it out for the QPR match. I just really thought that Watford were lifeless in much of this game. Outside of those 10 minutes, 12 minutes, I should say, from minute 26 to minute 38, Watford did absolutely nothing. Matt, thank you again, Matt, for your comment. Porteous looked like he was ready for his New Year glass of champagne. Yep, I agree with you 100%, Matt. Matt, one of the most consistent commenters on the YouTube channel at YOU ORNS WFC, which I would love for you to subscribe to at YOU ORNS WFC on YouTube. Thank you, Matt, for that. Yep, I think he was ready for his New Year's glass of champagne. I think that is absolutely correct. And that is going to be, at this point, the YOU ORNS Watford fan comment of the match. Porteous looked like he was ready for his New Year's glass of champagne. That was from Matt on YouTube. And that is the YOU ORNS Watford FC fan comment of the game today. So I want to thank you all. I'm going to continue on YouTube. I'm going to say goodbye to you on X. Don't forget to follow at YOU ORNS WFC on both X and on YouTube with the YouTube channel. And of course, on Instagram at YOU ORNS WFC, where we are heading to next. There will be a couple of videos I'm going to be putting out here in the next, day or so, or even the next few hours. And there will be a podcast episode as well. Watford could not quite get to 2025 without losing in the Tom Cleverley era. It would have been a really, really good thing to close out this calendar year, wouldn't it? With an unbeaten streak going into the next year. I think that would have been really, really good. But unfortunately, it was not to be. Watford clipped at the final hurdle in the last game of 2024. The final was Watford 1, Cardiff City 2. Cardiff deserved that. That was absolutely well-deserved from them. So Bob will be back for New Year's Day, and we'll be back as well on X on New Year's Day in the post-match as well. Again, the final was Watford 1, Cardiff 2. And from those of you on X, for those of you, I want to say, have a happy New Year. Take care, be well, and be safe. And until New Year's Day, take care on X, and Happy New Year to you. Be well. So, fellow Watford supporters, thank you for continuing on here on YouTube. We're going to be going live to Instagram World in just a few moments' time. And look, I am really dismayed by how poorly Watford played. You can't get a Watford performance as lifeless as that and expect that you can turn these games on and off. I think that's the problem. One of our big problems, which I didn't say with the ex-listeners, is that we play up and down to the level of our competition. I'm going to repeat that in a few moments when I get back to the folks on Instagram, putting them up in a few moments' time, as I'm trying to do. But we play up and down to the level of our competition. We've done it over and over and over again. And we did it again today. Cardiff, though, what was new about the away side was how much of a positive attacking force they were. Cardiff, who cares that they were bottom two? They played anything but bottom two type football today. They played anything but. They dominated the game. They controlled the game. You can have no complaint if you are a Cardiff fan on what your players did today. Watford fans can have no complaint about what Cardiff players did, because Cardiff, listen, they played well. The referee actually was decent. The referee had a good game today. You're always going to have some issues with refs, but the referee, I thought, was solid today. Sam Allison did a good job as far as that goes. But the bottom line is that Watford did not do their job. It seemed like everyone except Watford did their job today. The head coach had a bit of a wobble. The players were nowhere to be found. And the look, the result was exactly justified. How can you have a complaint about the Watford result today? You can't have a complaint about that. And so we're going to go now to Instagram as well. And we are now live on Instagram following Watford 1, Cardiff City 2. The long unbeaten streak comes to an end at the Vic under Cleverly. Joe Larkin says hello on Instagram. We're going to read out more of your comments on both Instagram and on YouTube today. Meeks has joined us as well. Meeks has joined us. Thank you, Meeks. Hello to you on Instagram. What a terrible Watford performance this was. They absolutely deserved to get spanked. And 2-1 does not tell you the story. It's kind of like the Burnley game. 2-1 does not tell you the story of how Cardiff dominated the game. Dominated. Who cares that Cardiff had only 23%, 24, 27% of possession? Doesn't matter. It's what you do with your possession that really counts. And Joe Larkin on Insta says, "You Orns, disappointing game." And yeah, there's not the same kind of "you Orns," because you can understand it's a deflating feeling for us as Watford supporters today, because we saw a really dog's dinner of a Watford performance. And as someone said, as Matt said, I should say, on YouTube, you had these players, Porteous in particular, looked like he was ready for his New Year's champagne. I think they were all punch drunk today, pretty much. No desire, no heart, no energy, no persistence, no urgency. He just didn't see any urgency. There's too much time on the ball. Ryan Andrews was really poor as well. Just took forever on the ball, got his pocket picked, he couldn't even get a pass right. He couldn't control the ball correct. Larousse, although I thought Larousse was pretty decent in this game, he had two bad moments, a foul throw, which you should never have in this league. I know Cardiff had one as well. And also the other problem is Larousse had a throw in that bounced all the way to a Cardiff player. I don't know what happened with that. How do you throw a ball in that went straight to a Cardiff player who's on the other side of the pitch and should have scored had it not been for an excellent Daniel Bampton save? So it was a very poor performance all the way around. Thank you, Lewis, for joining us on Insta. I couldn't make it today as I went to another game, as it was a Christmas present. Well, Lewis, I hope you enjoyed that Christmas present, and I hope that the other game you went to, the team that you were supporting or wanting to win, I hope they actually got the win. Because Watford today at Vicarage Road were absolutely miserable, and they deserve to lose. This is the end of story. There's no other way around it. Watford were dreadful today. That unbeaten run, a long unbeaten run, which you can really look back on and be proud of, has come to an end. You start to think that Watford might go the entire season without losing at home, but you knew that that wasn't going to happen. And you knew that if they were going to lose, it was going to be to a team in the bottom three. Inevitably, make that the bottom two before the start of play today. Cardiff were the bottom two side in this division. But as I keep saying, you cannot play a team and think, well, they're bottom two, we'll just turn them over. When you're playing out there on the pitch, you're not playing against a team with a position in the table. You're not playing against a position in the table. You are playing against a team, and especially a team like Cardiff, who are desperate, a desperate outfit. And, Watford had to realize that. And I thought we got very naive today at times. Jack Magellis, hello. You are here in the United States as I am. Hello to you. Hope you've been enjoying your holidays as we now head to New Year's in the next few days. It's a shame that Watford could not get into 2025 with an unbeaten record at the Vic. It's a shame they couldn't keep that going for another game. Just one more game to push us into the new year would have been different. Joe Larkin says, I've got to go, Omar, but I'll see you after Sheffield United. Hopefully, we can do better then. I hope so, Joe. I hope so. Now, the Sheffield United game is coming up in a few days, but the game coming up on on Wednesday, which is just 4 days from now, will be the game at QPR at Loftus Road, where we visit QPR on New Year's Day. So, Joe, if I don't see you on New Year's Day on the post-match or the pre-match, I do want to say Happy New Year to you, Joe Larkin. Take care of yourself and be well. I heard it was shocking, says Lewis. You better believe, Lewis, it was shocking. This was a shocking performance from Watford today, the worst at Vicarage Road this season. I know I've said that maybe once or twice this season, but this one truly was for the dogs, Lewis. Watford did not have anything going. They only had 12 minutes where they had any sustained period of pressure in the Cardiff goal, and that was from minute 26 through minute 38, which ended in the goal for Georgie. Outside of that 12-minute spell, Watford didn't do anything else in terms of attacking the Cardiff goal. You really did not miss a lot. Lewis says, I didn't miss a lot then due to that I went to Spurs. Okay. I forgot who Spurs played. I think it's Wolves. Spurs played Wolves today. And Lord knows, I mean, we'll find out from you, Lewis, I'm sure, if Wolves managed to steal a game there. Did Spurs go Spursy, or did Wolves succumb to Tottenham? And is, not that I really care that much, but is Ange Postecoglou going to lose his job at Spurs? Anyway, that's a whole nother story for a whole nother kind of fan base. But as for our fan base here, Tom Cleverley, I think today was not quite on it in terms of the subs. I know people are going to say, well, he subbed off Loser because someone did on X. He subbed off Loser because of the yellow card, and he didn't want him to get, and didn't want him to get a second yellow, given what happened to Barr. But Loser is a different kettle of fish, despite his previous disciplinary problems last season. Loser is a veteran footballer, and I think he can control his temper a lot better than the younger Quadro Barr can. But the bottom line is that I don't take off Loser in that situation. I don't see why he should have been ever taken off the pitch, even with the yellow card. You've got to learn how to play with yellow cards. You've got to learn how, and very, very poor as far as I'm concerned that sub was made, and that are coming off too. There was no reason for that. But again, manager makes mistakes as well. And some people were very upset with Cleverley. I mean, there was someone on X who told me during the middle of the game that he thought that Cleverley was, quote, and I'm cleaning this up for family viewing, an effing clown for the tactics that he had, for the lineup that he had, for the setup that he had. Now, listen, I don't think that he is, quote, an effing clown for that lineup or the setup. What I think happened with Clevs today is that he got the subs wrong. And it's probably only the second or third time this season that he's ever got the subs wrong in 23 games. I mean, if you can go 23 games and only get the subs wrong 2 or 3 times, I think you're doing pretty blooming well. Watford still doing pretty blooming well to end the calendar year. Look, you've got to look at the silver lining out of this. The silver lining is Watford, despite everything, remain in the top 6 for the new year. I think that's as well as it can go for you, considering the fact that you dropped another game. The second loss now in the last 3 for Watford. I would watch that from a Watford perspective. It's been a while, and I don't even want to say it because I might jinx them. But I would watch that situation. 2 of their last 3 they've dropped now. But luckily, it hasn't really hurt them today because Blackburn Rovers also lost at home. I think that's significant. That was against Hull. Hull were in the bottom 2 or 3 before this game started today. That's amazing. 2 of the bottom 3 went away from home to 2 of the bottom 6 and won. This is why I keep saying that you cannot look at these games as, oh, well, we should beat Cardiff easily. Before I spoke, when I spoke in the pre-match on Instagram, I did say that Cardiff were going to be a difficult game. I thought Watford would win 3-1. I got that completely wrong, obviously. But I did say that Cardiff were going to make life difficult for Watford, and they did. And they not only made life difficult for Watford, they ended up winning the game. We had people predicting 3-0 scorelines for Watford. I had a 3-1. But when that goal went in after 56 seconds, that was a real telltale sign that it was going to be the tricky afternoon that I expected it to be. But I still thought Watford would come back and win the game, and Watford had enough to do that in this game, bar or no bar. Watford were not playing their brand of football, and Cardiff are playing theirs. I mean, it's that simple, really. You do not have to be much of a rocket scientist. You don't have to know the theory of relativity. You don't have to know any of that kind of stuff. You don't have to go to schools on the African continent that mastered science and mastered all this technology and all these things to know that Watford just didn't do the job today. They just did not play their brand of football. They didn't. They expected that Cardiff would just wilt under Watford pressure, and Cardiff didn't do that. Cardiff used that goal, and they played well, and they got the goal, the second goal, due to sloppy defending. The defending was terrible today. It got worse today than the previous couple of games. And the bottom line is Ryan Porteous shouldn't have been on the pitch today. If I was Tom Cleverley, I would have subbed him off after that first goal. I mean, he was so poor today, Porteous. No idea where he was. Planet Mars? Oh, where was Porteous? Terrible, terrible today from him. The team was shocking today. Georgie had his usual spell of goodness, and there were some moments from Vata that were good, but generally this team today did not play football at all. They just did not. And I think now they're all looking forward to New Year's Eve, aren't they? But I don't think Cleverley's going to let them take days off. Especially after something as bad as this. He'll make them look at the film. It's a quick turnaround for QPR because that's just Thursday. There's only 4 more days from now. That's a quick turnaround. Excuse me, Wednesday. It's a Wednesday match. Pardon me. It's only 3 more days after this. 3 days from now, you've got that game. Really, really poor. Spurs should have won, says Lewis, but they missed a penalty. Well, there we go. That is where Lewis was today. He was at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and I think they got a draw, obviously, there against Wolves, perhaps, but maybe not. Maybe not. We'll see. We'll find out what happened with these games. But let me read out these games again in our league, in the Championship, because that's really what counts for us before saying goodbye on this edition of You ORNS Post-Match on Instagram and on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe to YouTube, the You ORNS YouTube channel, You ORNS WFC. That's on YouTube at You ORNS WFC. That is the YouTube channel. You can also follow on X and Instagram with the same at You ORNS WFC handle. Don't forget to like the videos on YouTube as well. I'll be doing a couple of videos that I really do want to put forth here before New Year's Day arrives. Watford today just weren't at their best, not even close. It was a terrible performance. It's going to be painful viewing. Daniel Jefferson as well. I think the fans, and I can understand this, have lost patience with Daniel Jefferson. They've been very patient with Daniel Jefferson. I think Watford as a club has been very patient with him. And I think even Tom Cleverley, who I think is definitely a player's manager and is patient, is probably going to start to think about other options for striker beyond Jefferson. I think they're going to be looking at Bio, obviously, but also they're going to be looking at bringing in someone. Daniel Jefferson is not cutting the mustard for us. And I think that's very, very apparent and very, very obvious to any fellow Watford supporter. We think very clearly that Daniel Jefferson is going, and he's on loan here from Bournemouth. He has just got a crisis of confidence. And thank you, Joe GS, for coming in on Insta. Daniel Jefferson is just nowhere near it. He's not up for this for Watford, and for whatever reasons, on the field, off the field, or just the mentality, it's just not there for him. You cannot miss these sitters over and over and over again. He had another one today that was really appalling to miss a sitter. He had it presented to him on a platter, and he couldn't get his head on the ball. If he gets his head any kind of touch with an open net, that's the equalizer. And that's probably the game ending at 2-2. But didn't happen. Daniel Jefferson just has not been the factor for Watford that I was hoping he would be. I really thought that he was going to be a very important player for Watford and was going to score goals. But, it's been, 5 months now? 5 months? Excuse me, 4 months, 3 months that he's been here. And he's just not done it. Now, look, I know that some of these games he's been out injured. He's been injured, or he's just been out the lineup. A lot of confidence issues, and somebody really needs to I'm sure they are working with him psychologically and all that, but some people or someone really needs to get with him and put an arm around him, and also just spend a lot of time with him on the footballing side of things, with the goal, with getting in front of goal, having confidence in front of goal, because Watford could have used him scoring that goal. He really could have scored that goal and should have. But like I've said before, this is not about about Barr. Barr being absent is not the reason Watford lost. Now, let me read out these score lines that really are important score lines now from the Championship today. Norwich 1, QPR 1. That's important because QPR are our next opponent. QPR getting a share of points at Carrow Road. QPR actually scored first and were leading that game for a lot of time until Nunez, who scored a lot of goals, I think, for Norwich, rescued a point for Norwich in the 89th minute. So that gives you an idea. QPR are very difficult to deal with. Preston 3, Sheffield Wednesday 1. Sheffield Wednesday were right behind us, about a place or two behind us. And so that win for Preston helped. A lot of the sides around Watford and above them stumbled today. And so Watford stumbled with them. A lot of these teams in the upper 8 of the table ended up losing or drawing these games today. So that really helped us. Sheffield United and West Brom, that was a 1-1 draw. West Bromwich Albion failed to take a chance to win that game. They had it was a 1-1 at halftime. United scored first. West Brom scored at the half, basically in injury time, and that ended 1-1. Sheffield United now 2 consecutive home matches without wins as they stutter in the championship. Of course, Leeds can maintain and return to the top of the table if they win their game. I'll read you that in a minute. Blackburn 0, Hull City 1. That was the final result there. That's the other game that I was talking about. Blackburn in 5th, losing at home to Hull City, who were in the bottom 3 before this game began, and now they are outside the bottom 3. So again, these games, you can't look at these teams in the bottom and expect that that's an easy win. I'm sure Blackburn may well have taken Hull City lightly. I didn't watch the game, but Blackburn have now lost that game to Hull. So Blackburn 0, Hull 1. And Longman scoring for Hull in the 77th minute. Look, this is what happens. These games happen where teams in the bottom get desperate at the end of the year. They do. They get desperate. And they want to go into the new year with a platform to build off of. And they want to end the old year on a winning note. And a lot of these teams in the bottom half of the table did that. Hull won. Obviously, Cardiff won. Oxford United won. This is what happens in these games. So there you go. Stoke 1, Sunderland 0. That's one of the big surprises of the day. Stoke City winning late in the 92nd minute. They won the game. Cannon scoring the goal to put Sunderland on their backside. Sunderland have stuttered about as well lately. They've failed to win in these last 2 games now. So Sunderland have stuttered a bit. And then, of course, we know what happened at the Vic today. Of course, the good news today is that Swansea beat that lot up the road by a score of 2-1. So, if you look at these games now, speaking of 2-1, that has been the scoreline in each of the last 4 games. The game against West Bromwich Albion ended 2-1. Of course, remember the game against Burnley ended 2-1. The game against Portsmouth ended 2-1. And the game against Cardiff ended 2-1. So all of these, do we have a bet for a scoreline on Tuesday? Do you have a bet for, Wednesday? Do you have a bet for 2-1? Do we want to make it 5 straight games at 2-1? Watford had conceded goals in each of the last 2 games prior to today, in the 9th minute and the 10th minute. But today it was in the 57th second of the game. Really, literally 57 minutes. 56 seconds in. 57 seconds in, Watford gave up the first goal. Our defending has been a real poor feature of these last 3 or 4 games. And, it's really shown. We went a stretch where we went 3.5 games, or almost 3 full games, I should say, without conceding. Now, in these last 3 games, we've conceded 5. So our defensive equilibrium is well off the charts here now. We have not got that right. There's got to be a lot more work done there positionally. There's going to be a lot of film watching to go. Derby County 0, Leeds 0. That's the other game. And then, of course, later on tonight, Middlesbrough against Burnley. That's a massive one. Watford will be keeping their eyes, I'm sure, on that one. I certainly will be. Middlesbrough have an opportunity to leapfrog us now. If they get the win against Burnley, they can do that. If they get a draw against Burnley, they can do that. So if Middlesbrough get a draw, they can leapfrog us into the top 6 to end the calendar year. Of course, Burnley will be looking to get a win. If Burnley win the game, Burnley could possibly go top of the table. Burnley have won 3 in a row. So, Burnley have a very good chance. Middlesbrough is a tough place to play, but Burnley have been so good this season. Burnley, I'll be hoping that Burnley can get the 3 points there, do us a favor, so that we can stay in the top 6 over the New Year's start. And I think that will be very good. Watford, I think Watford will bounce back, by the way, against QPR. I think Watford will not have another bad performance in a row like that. Watford react well to bad performances. They've done that a number of times this season. They've usually bounced back with 3 points. And I do think that they're going to go into QPR and find a way to take those 3 points in New Year. I think they're going to be very, very urgent in that game and play the football that we know that they are capable of. Watford today were very disappointing. And I think that they are going to hear a lot about how disappointed they were from their head coach and from Watford fans across social media and elsewhere. So that's it. At the table, currently Leeds, who are drawing their game against Derby at the minute, Leeds on 49 by goal difference over Sheffield United, who have the same amount of points. Burnley in third on 47. Sunderland on 44. Blackburn, who lost today, on 38 in fifth. And then us, Watford, on 37. We, of course, lost as well today. So, look, we've had some stumbles. 3 of the top 6 lost. 4, 5, and 6 in the table. They all lost their games today. Sunderland, Blackburn, and Watford in that order, all lost. Middlesbrough are looking to, and they're in 7th. Middlesbrough looking to leapfrog Watford. In fact, they could leapfrog Blackburn into 5th if they beat Burnley today. Burnley, I think, will do something and manage to get some points out of that game. But even if Burnley get a point, that will be enough to take Watford out of the top 6 going into 2025. Well, that's just about all of the juice and the honey I can squeeze out of a very dismal Watford performance, because there's really not much to squeeze out of it, except you've got to play better than this, lads, to start the new year. That is it. I'm going to read out your comments here from YouTube. Thank you for them. Richard has made his comments. Matt has a new comment here. With Jefferson, it's almost like he doesn't want to take risks like some of our other players. It still looks like he needs more confidence, but I have no clue where he's going to get it from. Thank you, Matt, for your comment on YouTube. Jefferson it's just I do have some sympathy for him, but I also feel the same way as some Watford fans do about his failure to put the ball in the back of the net. It's tragic. It's annoying. It's upsetting. It makes you frustrated and a little bit angry, actually, quite frankly. And we really should have got a point based on that effort, but based on his opportunity, but based on our total effort, we didn't deserve any points from this game. So I guess it was fitting that he did miss. It's just one of these days, this run is going to come to an end. You can't stay unbeaten at home forever. I think what annoys me, and what I think annoys a certain contingent of Watford supporters, is that we just didn't give an effort today hard enough to try to want to win the game. We didn't put our stamp on the game. We didn't put our tempo on the game. We didn't get desperate enough for this game. We took, I think, Cardiff at face value and did not play them like they were a desperate team. Cardiff came in there desperate, and that is what Watford didn't deal with. Watford allowed themselves to kind of sit back and see what Cardiff were doing, but then when they tried to turn the jets on, it was too late. Georgie equalized, but that equalizer didn't last very long, because again, within 4 minutes of that, we couldn't hold on to the equalizer, and then Cardiff score again. I mean, that shouldn't be happening, and that's on your defending. That's on your defense. You cannot be breached twice in the half. Watford had not conceded 2 goals in the same half for a long time at the Vic, and I think this is the first time they've done that since this run began. And so that's why I think Watford lost the game. That's one of the reasons why. When was the last time Watford conceded 2 goals in the first half of Vicarage Road before today? I can't think of a game in that 9.5-month run where Watford have done that. Maybe Leeds United? I don't know. Thank you, Mark, for joining us. Mark WFC joins us on Instagram. Maybe Leeds United, when we had a 2-2 draw against them under Klebs. That was Klebs' first game in charge at the Vic. And I think that might have been 2 goals in the first half. Thank you, Holly, for joining us as well. But it's just been a really disappointment. It's been a disappointment. 2-1. Yeah, 2-1. It's a tough one. It's a tough one. We just didn't do enough. We didn't look good enough. We were nowhere near it. Cardiff bossed the game. And you can't look at possession. Possession is 9/10 of the law. The other 10th is scoring, Daniel Jefferson. The other 10th is passing, Ryan Andrews. The other 10th is actually putting in a defensive shift, Ryan Porteous. That's what happens. Thank you, SQC81 on Instagram, for joining. hello to you as well. Matt on YouTube makes a good point. He does need more confidence, and I've said this as well. Daniel Jefferson is very low on confidence. Not an excuse, that's the reality. And strikers go through a long patch of this. Unfortunately for him, is that he has not got any goodwill where he can perhaps ride out a wave like this. And unlike Bio, who, some Watford fans still don't take to Bio, unlike Bio, Daniel Jefferson has not scored any goals, and Bio at least has a reservoir of goodwill with a number of Watford fans that they can, even though some Watford fans may not be a fan of Bio, he's got enough goodwill because he's scored goals. He scored 9 on the season. Yes, he's missed sitters, but he's scored 9, and he plays hard for the team. He's a team player. So at least Bio, as I mentioned earlier, has some goodwill with some Watford fans who will overlook perhaps a little bit more the fact that he has missed some sitters because he's having a much better season this season with the 9 goals he's scored. So, some Watford fans will give Bio a bit more of a break now than they would have done, say, at the beginning of the season or certainly last season. But Daniel Jefferson does not have the benefit of that goodwill because obviously he has not yet scored. So that, if he's had 3 or 4 goals in the bag already, these misses in these last few games in particular will obviously be reacted to by Watford supporters, but they're not going to be going at him as nasty as you probably will see or you've probably already seen, God forbid, on social media. Now, listen, he deserves stick, but you're going to get some Watford fans are going to take it beyond stick, and they're going to get personal and they're going to get nasty. Now, look, this happened with Daniel Backman as well, and I don't condone it. Watford fans are going to have their say, and I think, listen, when a player doesn't play well, when he misses sitters, he should get stick. But then if you're going to get worse than that and go personal and get into those kinds of areas, I think that's off limits. I personally think that's off limits. But if a player ain't playing well and he's missing sitters and he's doing this and doing that, he deserves the usual stick that you would get from your fan base in that way. But if it goes beyond that, if it gets into other stuff, personal, race, or religion, or someone's orientation, that kind of stuff, that to me is way off limits. But you know what? We have some of them in our fan base who are going to go there. And look, it's a horrible thing. We don't need that kind of nonsense. Of course, remember, there was a Watford player who's still unnamed who had said that he was racially abused at Burnley by the fans there at Turf Moor just a week or two ago. So, I don't know what's become of that now, but we'll see. But we'll see about Jefferson. I think Jefferson needs to be offloaded. I think that's obvious. Daniel Jefferson hasn't worked for us. It hasn't worked. He's worked hard, I'm sure, in training, and he's worked hard to try to get into positions, but he's worked hard and he's not scored. And so, it's really glaring misses like the ones today, like the one on Thursday, that are really going to be rough. And so I think he needs to be moved on. Sadly, but surely, I think he has to, unless Watford are willing to be patient with him even more, but they've been very patient with him. Been a tough season for him. Francis says, it's frustrating, but in truth, I think we've been punching above our weight in the main this season. Hopefully, we can see out this season on a positive note, though. Thank you, D. Francis, on YouTube for that comment. We have been punching above our weight in a lot of these games. I think our desire and character have been the biggest thing that have been contributing to these wins, particularly these late turnarounds at Vicarage Road. I think that's very true. In some ways, I do think that there've been 1 or 2 games where we've shown that we can play good football. At Plymouth, we didn't get the win there, right? But I think what we've really seen this season, D. Francis, is the character. For the most part, we've had good character this season, good togetherness. But then there are games like Preston. Then there are games like Swansea. Then there are games like Burnley. Then there are games like Cardiff, where we don't have any of those things. And we don't have the character either. And as I will repeat again here, for those of you who've joined me just recently on this episode of You ORNS Extra on Instagram Live and You ORNS Post-Match on YouTube, is this: Barr's absence is not the reason we lost this game. It's kind of more of what D. Francis was saying, which is that we've not played well in a lot of games this season, with Barr in the lineup or without him in the lineup. So this has got nothing to do with one player being absent. Could we have used Barr today? Absolutely, we could have used Barr. But the bottom line is Barr's absence is not the reason we lost the game. I mean, geez, if you're going to say that, I think you're really being dishonest and you're doing yourself a disservice and you're doing the team a disservice because you're not being honest about the fact that the whole team didn't perform. There was one or two who had their moments, like Georgie, who scored, obviously, maybe one or two others. But generally speaking, this team was not there today. They were just not there, didn't seem to give any desperate effort. There was no urgency. I thought it was very telling that James Morris didn't get on the pitch because, again, James Morris didn't do well on Thursday afternoon. And so the manager did not put him in. You can complain about the subs. Yes, the subs were a problem. You don't sub off Loser. I don't care if he's on the yellow or not. You don't sub Loser off the game. He had been good in the midfield again today, and Vata had been creative. Vata had basically had the assist for the goal that Georgie scored. So look, for me, Vata was playing out on the right today, and I thought he did a good job. But you don't take them two players off after 57 minutes. I think that's really poor. That's the one mistake Clev's made. But there were some Watford fans, as I said before, who were on X who really, really were very unhappy with Clevs. And that was halfway through the game. And they were telling me, he's an effing clown. I'm not going to repeat the swear words on here. But one Watford fan was really upset with Clevs. Didn't like his lineup, didn't like the setup, didn't like anything today from Clevs' point of view. But to me, this is not the manager's fault. I know some people will say the tactics got wrong, but this ain't about the manager. It's these players. These players just didn't put anything together. If you can only, at home at Vicarage Road, if you can only spend 12 minutes doing anything of note, and you only had 2 chances in them 12 minutes at all as it was, but if you can only spend 12 minutes of a football match doing anything, that's nothing to do with the manager. That's nothing to do with the manager. Omar Reza, a happy homecoming for him. The former Watford coach comes in and does a good job and gets Cardiff over the line. The only team to have beaten Watford this season at the Vic is Cardiff, and let's hope it stays that way as far as Watford are concerned. Richard Lee says, Happy New Year, Omar. Fellow Hornets, hopefully a much improved performance against QPR. Thank you, Richard, for that. Happy New Year to you as well, Richard. And Matt says, even though I know we're all upset about the result today, we still need to stay behind the team we love. We've seen the team come back from losses by the next game and show a better performance. I agree, Matt. And as I was saying a few minutes ago, Watford bounced back well. Usually bounce back very well from poor performances like this. We've seen that this season. I expect, and as I said earlier, I think they're going to get 3 points at QPR. So I'm definitely behind this team. I understand. Listen, Matt, you know this. Watford fans are going to be upset about the performance, and we should be upset at the performance. But what I really want to add to that is that we really shouldn't mistake people being upset at the team for a poor performance with not being behind them. I would say, and I'm not saying that you're directly accusing fans of doing that, Matt, but what I want to really stress here is that when you are telling your team how you feel about them because they played poorly, that's actually an act of love, in my view. That's an act of showing that you care enough about the team, that you want to see them succeed. And so you're going to be upset at them. It's like when your parents are upset at you because you did something wrong at home, and you're a young kid, a little kid, and they let you know that they're upset. Don't mean they don't love you. Same thing with Watford fans. I think that's a pretty good analogy, I think, right? Same thing with Watford fans. Just because we get on the team's case when they don't play well, don't mean we don't love the team, and don't mean that we're not getting behind them. It means that we care about you and want you to do better. If we didn't care about you, we wouldn't say anything about you. We want you to do better in these games of the Vic. And Clev said this over and over again, even before this game and in Watford Observer with Andrew French and all the rest of it. He said, look, we've got to find a way to start these games better at home. And here we go, Exhibit A, 56 seconds in, Cardiff up 1-0. I mean, that's really it there. So, yeah, we're going to get behind the team, but that also means that we should be criticizing them when they do wrong and get behind them. We still get behind them when we're criticizing them. Now, some Watford fans just relentlessly excoriate Watford. And whenever Watford lose a game or don't play well, I will be definitely, you can count on them to call in to X, to the You ORNS post-match and complain about how bad Watford were. But when Watford win the games, some of them Watford fans you never see call in to You ORNS post-match. Never. They don't call in when Watford win. They only call in when Watford lose. So that I could understand that you would say, well, they need to get behind the team. But certainly there's a lot of us Watford fans who criticize constructively, who do have a go at them when they don't play well. And I predicted they'd finish 8th this season. They're currently in 6th. We'll see what Middlesbrough do against Burnley tonight. But look, the bottom line is that Watford have to play better at home and they have to play better away. This is not a home thing anymore because they've now lost. It's about the team now, wherever they play, whether it's planet Mars, whether it's Jupiter. It's about how they're playing these games. Hello, Richard, WFC. Nice to see you aboard here. Going into closing phases or stages now of this You ORNS post-match and You ORNS Extra on Instagram Live, although I really was trying to do that a few minutes ago. But you have come in with a few more comments, and so that's why I've been reading them out and reacting and giving my thoughts as well. So, look, the bottom line is now there's going to have to be a real examination of this Watford defense. I think that Robbo's going to have to spend a bit more time on this defense with some other things he had to bring forth to them because they didn't get the defense right at all today. And the team has got to apply itself in a better way coming on Wednesday against QPR. It's a funny old day today. It doesn't even feel like Sunday today for me. The sun has shone and it's come out here in San Francisco. So the sun is out, at least after it had been raining for hours and hours here. I do hope that the evening in the United Kingdom, or wherever you might be across the world, is a whole lot better for you than this game was, because it was awful to watch. That is all for this edition of the You ORNS post-match on YouTube at You ORNS WFC. Please subscribe. And that is all for the You ORNS Extra on Instagram Live for the post-match. And of course, this is the final post-match of 2024. I really have appreciated throughout this calendar year the contributions from every fellow Watford supporter. I really appreciate talking to you, reading out your comments, hearing from you, and giving my feedback and hearing from you on your feedback as how you think about the way Watford have played this season. Though so far, I think if we really look at this first half of the season, it's been very good for Watford. We're in the top 6. I think it's a very encouraging sign. We still haven't played great football, but we are in the top 6 right now before Middlesbrough against Burnley. And that's very encouraging. And so we still are in the playoff spots at the moment. We can still push further and we can still play better. And we still have a thin squad. We'll see what January brings. Happy New Year to you as well, Richard WFC. Thank you very much for that. And Richard Lee says, see what happens in transfer window in January. Hopefully Gino will back Tom, improve the squad in push to stay in the playoff places. That's right. I will echo that sentiment as well. Richard Lee's on YouTube. And Happy New Year to you, Richard, and to everyone watching, both the Richards, both on Instagram and on YouTube, and as well as every Watford fan who has commented on the YouTube channel this calendar year, which is a lot of people, and same on Instagram. Thank you all for your time and for your precious time coming to support the YouTube channel and to watch these post and pre-matches. I didn't do one after Boxing Day, but today, back on song and back on track. And unfortunately, Watford did not get the job done. That ends the calendar year after a long unbeaten run. And now we move forward to 2025. I want to thank each and every one of you. Have a great new year as well, Matt. Thank you for that. Have a great New Year's Eve. See you on New Year's Day for hopefully a better performance against QPR, says Matt. And I hope so, Matt, as well. Thank you for your contributions in this calendar year of 2024. Richard WFC says on Instagram, think we need a goalkeeper. Yeah, we might need that as well, I think. I think urgently, even more so now, as well as a goalkeeper, but even more so a striker, besides Bio, who, again, scored 9 goals this season, has had a much better season by his accounts. But we need a backup striker or a striker who can really put the ball in the back of the net. And it just hasn't happened, aside from Bio, who actually has got a new lease on life in his loan spell here. Aside from him, it's not happening up top, is it? So that is that. But I do want to thank you all very much. Remember, listen to the You ORNS Watford FC podcast, which I'll be recording for later on today. There are new episodes up right now on both Spotify and on Apple. You ORNS Watford FC podcast. Really appreciate you listening to that. And of course, we'll be doing a number of videos between now and December the 31st about Watford, certainly about this game today as well. And I want to thank you all once again for a great time here on You ORNS post-match and on the pre-match as well. Thank you very much indeed. My name is Omar. Happy New Year to you all. Have a happy, safe, healthy, and prosperous 2025. Enjoy your New Year's Eve. Go out, have some fun. Be careful out there and be safe out there on New Year's Eve. For those of you who are going to be having fun out on the town and having a few drinks, be careful out there, all right? And have a good time. Live it up. Enjoy it. Again, the final today, Watford 1, Cardiff 2. Happy New Year to everybody watching and listening. And until January 1st, New Year's Day, I'm Omar saying, Happy New Year, everybody. Take care and be well.